dedicated raps, which is a good thing. They've been growing in listeners recently, especially on Spotify. They kind of shot up. I think right now they're over 500,000, which I feel like the other day they were like less than 400. So a little over a month ago, on March 3rd, I made a video talking about 5050 and why you should be paying attention to them. At the time, 5050 were starting to break out of Nugudom. They were hovering around 600 to 700,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, which was really impressive, and it was increasing at a rapid pace. But this one comeback they were given broke boundaries for the group that I never thought that they would reach. As I'm recording this, 5050 has now reached 23.7 million monthly listeners on Spotify, which passes Blackpink as being one of the largest acts on the platform. Now, New Jeans recently got pretty close to Blackpink in monthly listeners. I think they reached like a peak of 21 something million, and then they've slowly started to simmer off for a reason which we'll discuss a little later. Now, I will admit I was not a fan of 5050 since the beginning, so I'm not like an OG fan or anything, but I was someone who's been listening to them since they were relatively smaller. Like, even before I made that 5050 video, I was listening to them. And I think their dramatic rise is due to 3 primary reasons, 2 being smaller than 1, but we'll talk about all 3. And those 3 reasons are as follows. Number 1, cultivate a strong fandom on social media, whether it be TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, it doesn't matter. 2, making trendy music that is just different enough that it gets people's attention, but still falls within the boundaries of being a good K-pop song. And finally, 3, TikTok virality. This is 5050's Meteoric rise and why it matters.
Tell me everything that you like. Looking at you liking how you watching me. 눈을 뗄 수 없겠지. You've never seen 내 쑥스럽던 내 모습도 하나 오늘만큼 이 느낌에 빠져볼래.
Whether K-pop companies like it or not, their entire brand, all of their groups are built off of fandom culture. If a company makes a K-pop group, that K-pop group is only going to go as far as the fandom takes them. This is why in K-pop you see a lot of mass album buying and a lot of mass streaming of music. This somewhat acts as a double-edged sword because while this can help a K-pop group grow, it also dilutes how popular they really are. A good representation of this is how fandoms act in the 4th generation mass buying albums. A lot of bigger 4th generation albums now sell over 1 million copies pretty frequently, but a lot of that comes down to the fact that fans will buy 4 to 5 album copies each. That really dilutes how popular or how successful some of these groups are. However, fandoms can actually push away a lot of new fans depending on how toxic and how nice they are. Some examples of really nice fandoms are people like Carrots, which are 17's fandom group name, and Monbebes, which are Monsta X fandom name. I think everyone can kind of agree that those 2 fandoms are very positive. Or you can have some really negative fandoms, which I've had the displeasure with interacting with recently. A lot of fandom culture is spread through social media, and the best way to build a strong fandom is to be active on social media. In this regard, 5050 was able to cultivate a very strong and dedicated fandom on platforms like TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Specifically TikTok, where they had a ton of fans that would always tell people to stream and listen to their music or at least check them out back when they were more Nugu. I remember during their debut period, I saw a ton of people on TikTok constantly talk about like how, oh, you need to check them out, they're super underrated, their music sounds super different, this is a really good group. At one point I kind of just caved and eventually decided to listen to their music, and that's how I started listening to the group. So I'm a living example of how fandoms on social media can impact the success or listening numbers of a group. Now 5050 does a ton of promoting on social media platforms. They have variety content on YouTube, they post very frequently, they always do TikToks, and they're on Instagram. But before their company even focused on doing stuff like that, their fans were already on platforms like TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, promoting them profusely on those platforms. And I actually think it's heavily connected to the next point we'll talk about. So I think this point is relatively subjective. People have different tastes for music, so there's probably going to be plenty of people who watch this video and 5050's music is not for them, which is perfectly okay. However, there was a very common sentiment on TikTok and these social media platforms that 5050's music was really high quality, especially for a Nugu group, and at the time, I would definitely agree. Take a song like Lovin' Me, for example. It has a much different chord progression and sound to a lot of the hit K-pop songs songs that we hear nowadays. It plays around with anti-drops and tempo switches, and the chorus just sounds really, really pretty. But then you have songs like Tell Me or Higher, which kind of resemble earlier third generation music. And then you have Login, which is a complete change from the rest of the music, but also does kind of share some similarities with synths they use from their other songs. Their debut EP is only 4 songs long, but it is long enough to display the vocal talents of the members while also showing off the creativity and production that is there. This debut EP is everything that you would want out of a brand new Nugu group, and for this reason they attracted a very large fan base on TikTok who were very vocal in sharing them as a group. When there is good music, people will listen to it and people will share it, and that is exactly what happened on TikTok with 5050. It was a large reason why they even had a fan base to begin with, is because people were very vocal about how good they thought their debut EP was, and for that reason a lot of people started listening to their music, including myself. And then there is Cupid, which is their most recent single album release, and it's really good. Cupid finds this very rare but also great balance of being a song that is marketable on TikTok and is very catchy, but is also just a good pop song. Another song like this that isn't necessarily the same is a song like I Am from IVE recently. I think that song is really good. It doesn't do anything special, but it's just a good pop track, and that's all. And Cupid does not necessarily sound like IVE's I Am in any way, but they do the same thing very well. They're very marketable, they're catchy, and they're just good pop songs. Same exact thing happened in New Jeans OMG. The difference is that Cupid plays around with some anti-romantic sentiments, and it was very fitting for the time, which was just after Valentine's Day. I see a lot of people say when talking about 5050's success that, oh, well, good music finally won. I think good music wins very often in K-pop. I think K-pop is a genre with good music in general. But there are some Nugu groups out there that do produce good music, like Pixie, for example, that don't have a huge fan base. So I get what people mean by good music finally won, because this music is very good, or at least in my opinion it is. Again, not everyone out there is going to think that that's perfectly okay, but I do think this common sentiment of people liking their music and them blowing up on TikTok and them being promoted through social media platforms are all kind of interconnected. So to say 5050 blew up with Cupid on TikTok is an understatement. They absolutely shot up in popularity. And here's the thing, TikTok and virality translates to streams and translates to success. I had this conversation with some people under my last video and in some community threads, but being trendy in the 4th generation is successful. Now, the double-edged sword with being trendy and TikTok is that you over time will be forgotten. There are TikTok trends that people don't care about anymore, that people don't pay attention to anymore. A lot of people see TikTok virality and trendiness as temporary success, and in a way they are right, but I don't think they are 100% right. There are artists that have literally made their name by blowing up on TikTok. Artists that have become massive because their songs were very popular on TikTok. Olivia Rodrigo, very good example of it. Driver's License absolutely blew up on TikTok, and she really didn't look back. She's been making great music. I really like Sour as an album. I'm anticipating her upcoming release. She's won Grammys. Like, TikTok is not the 100% reason she blew up, but it was a huge factor in helping her achieve the success she has now. Temporary success does not always mean that it is fleeting success, that you will lose that success over time. 5050's Cupid blowing up on TikTok is going to help them in the long run. It gave them an even bigger platform to promote on and a much larger fan base. And again, look at New Jeans with OMG. They blew up on TikTok with OMG. Everyone was using that sound, and now we're hearing it played at fucking college parties in the United States. They're coming to perform at Lollapalooza, which I am going to. Social media platforms like Instagram and TikTok today are vital in keeping music current. I think I used Lil Pump as one of my other examples, but when I was personally in middle school, he was very popular, blew up with some of his earlier music, but the reason he couldn't keep that momentum is, one, I don't think his music is very good, and two, people kind of just hopped off the trend. They stopped listening to him for his trendier music, and he became pretty irrelevant. But that was before the time of TikTok that could potentially keep his music circulating in the scene. TikTok matters so much to K-pop right now, and some people don't realize it. Some people like understand how big TikTok is and how it influences, but people really do not understand how vital TikTok is for K-pop groups to thrive right now. Why do you think, all these dance challenges are created for every single song, ones that don't even need a dance challenge? Is because they want their songs to keep circulating on social media platforms, to keep getting streams. Every single group does it. NMIXX does it, LE SSERAFIM does it, NewJeans does it, aespa does it, fucking 5050 does it, like every group does it. However, 5050 was able to expand outside that little K-pop bubble on TikTok and actually branch out into other corners of TikTok, whether it be, people who make comedic videos or people who make review videos or unboxing videos. Their sound was everywhere for Cupid. It really went viral. And again, that is somewhat a double-edged sword. There will be a lot of fans who listen to them right now that will fall off that train. Right now, they're at 23.7 million monthly listeners on Spotify, but I'm sure a lot of those people are going to stop listening in a month once their song isn't trendy anymore on TikTok. A common saying is any press is good press, even if it is negative press directed towards you. And that is kind of true in this situation, right? Like, even if, Cupid is just a song that is just a TikTok filler song and it's just trendy now and 5050 is a one-hit wonder, it doesn't matter because it already did what it needed to do for the group. It already gave them a bigger pedestal. It helped give them a much larger fan base, and now there's a lot more people who are excited for 5050 than before. I'm not someone who likes music being directed for TikTok. A lot in the West, in the United States recently over the past couple years, we've seen people literally make music for TikTok, and I don't like that. I like artistic freedom and expression through songs, and I don't like it when music is made for a social media platform, but I'm not going to try to sit here and act like it's not good for the music, because it very much is. I don't think that songs like Cupid and OMG are meant for TikTok. I just think they blew up on TikTok because they're catchy pop songs. Like most catchy pop songs blow up on TikTok. My one concern over their virality is that other groups are going to see that, especially new groups, and try to do the same thing, and I don't want people making music for TikTok, right? That's not fun. So the question I want to ask is, can this momentum last? Like, can they take this newly grown fandom from Cupid, and can they hold on to that fandom essentially? K-pop groups are leaking buckets, right? They are buckets filled with water that have tiny little holes in the bottom. Okay, you constantly have people filtering out, but you also have this nozzle over the bucket that is constantly pouring in more water. That is more fans coming in from TikTok, social media platforms, whatever it may be. The goal for 5050 here is to come back and make it so that hole at the bottom of the bucket doesn't get any bigger, that it stays small, that the people who are leaving the fandom, who don't listen to music anymore, there's not a lot of them leaving. I see so many people saying that 5050 is going to be the great one-hit wonder of this new generation, right? And honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you, I think a lot of it comes out of jealousy because they're mad that their favorite group didn't blow up on TikTok to the extent that 5050 did. I think what people are desperate to see now is what 5050 comes back with. Are they gonna come back with a mini album, another single album? Like, what is the step from here? And I think it's very hard for a company to actually think of what to do next, right? Like, you're on Billboard right now. Like, 5050 is currently sitting at 60 as I record this on the Billboard Hot 100. That is a huge achievement. They've been on the charts for 4 weeks now, which is a lot for any K-pop group. And this isn't like they're falling. They went up 25 spots from last week. They were at 85 last week. This week, they're at 60. And they're probably going to keep climbing a little more, I would say easily into the 50s. I don't think people realize it is hard for a company to choose what to do next after this. Like, you have a bigger fandom now, but like, do you keep doing what you were doing? How do you promote them now? Do you promote them in a different way? I think there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes with these kind of processes that a lot of K-pop fans don't really understand. Should they stick with their Cupid concept and keep it with this like light, airy sound they've been doing so far in their career, or should they maybe switch it up with a darker concept? Like, what should you do here? When it comes to K-pop and marketing towards the West, especially with the United States, it's really a, now you have my attention, what are you going to do with it kind of moment. This has happened with a ton of other K-pop groups that have tried to promote over in the United States. Some have succeeded with BTS. They caught the United States attention, and they went on to promote for the United States, promote in the United States, have comebacks that were aimed around sounds in the United States with Butter and Dynamite. You have groups like Blackpink, which have a very marketable sound to the United States, but then you have other K-pop groups that have really failed at marketing themselves in the United States. Recently, I talked about aespa in my aespa video. I think they've done a pretty bad job at marketing over here in the United States because their concept is a bit weird compared to the other groups, but honestly, that holds true for most SM groups like NCT as well. There are plenty of groups that go on concert tours in the United States. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there are very few groups that have actually captured the attention of the United States by going on a ton of shows like Good Morning America and stuff and successfully promoting over here and growing a fan base instead of just randomly showing up saying, hey, we're a K-pop group with some music, and then leaving. So it'll be interesting to see if 50/50 promotes themselves more for the West, because they have a very large international fandom now. Now, they do have a very large domestic fandom because 50/50's music is very easily marketable domestically. It's very light, airy, fun music. And also, I think that's kind of a reason why they were able to blow up a little bit as well. Unlike the Pixies out there, who are a Nugu group that I do think needs more attention, but I understand why they're not bigger, because their concept isn't very marketable for the domestic fandom in South Korea. That's just not how it is. Their concept doesn't really mesh too well. There are very few groups that have been able to pull off darker concepts that they do with success, Dreamcatcher being one of them. But 50/50 as a Nugu group had a sound that is popular domestically. I think that 50/50's explosion out of Nugudom is really a good example of what Nugu groups can strive for right now in the K-pop scene. People act like being a Nugu group now is tough. Being a Nugu group before TikTok exploded in popularity was a different level of tough. Nowadays, it's incredibly easy to promote your new music on TikTok, and back during the stretch of 2016 to 2020, it was much harder to do those things before TikTok was really popping off in success. So Cupid with 50/50 has essentially given the rest of Nugudom a prime example of like what can happen if you market yourself well on a social media platform like TikTok and produce good music. Truthfully, the next 50/50 is just out there right now as some Nugu group that people aren't paying attention to, but as soon as they start getting good music and have a song blow up on TikTok, the same thing is going to happen. I think people will be surprised that we will see more groups like this pop up. However, it is more nuanced than that realistically. 50/50 blew up not only because they were viral on TikTok, but because they had good music and they're promoted very well by the company. I don't think 50/50 blowing up on TikTok and getting big is necessarily luck like I've seen some people say it is. I don't necessarily think they're going to be a one-hit wonder because people are aware of them as a group now and very attentive to what they're doing. But I think that 50/50's rise in popularity matters because it shows that Nugu groups are here, they're competing, and they can become large over something as basic as a pop track blowing up a little bit on TikTok. It matters because it shows that however small you may be, you still have the opportunity of breaking out of Nugudom. I hope 50/50 can somewhat serve as an example to go listen to music by Nugu groups like Pixie or Dream Note, for example, because there are Nugu groups out there that make music that you may really love, but you'll never get the opportunity because all you're doing is just listening to the hot trendy groups. Maybe if you're watching this video, instead of streaming the same top song 100 times over, maybe go and check out a Nugu group that doesn't get a lot of attention or a lot of likes on TikTok, or maybe their music isn't streamed as much. Go listen to some other music and broaden your horizons. If you don't want to, that's perfectly okay, but maybe just give some Nugu groups a chance every once in a while. Normally I don't do an outro for my Patreon, but I do have a Patreon. If you want to go check that out, I do full album reactions on there. Some people ask me like, oh, you should do reactions to videos and stuff, and I would really like doing that, but the YouTube copyright system and how it works doesn't really allow me to react to full-length albums, and I really want to do that for you guys, so I created a Patreon to do that. And we have some big albums coming up, like 17's is tomorrow when I'm recording this, and we have aespa's coming up with an album pretty soon. LE SSERAFIM's coming out with an album. Those will definitely be up on there, so if you're curious as to my thoughts, my initial thoughts on those, go check out my Patreon. I just dropped an August D-Day reaction on there as well. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys are the best, and I will see you guys in the next video.